Yo, hello guys. Welcome to my fourth Yap and Explain, which I will be doing some explaining and some yapping. So let's get this started. Let's get this party going. I'm gonna be playing two tables with 50 NL. So yeah, I've started shotting in at 50, and at first it went really well. Then it went to fucking shit, and then it went back to good as again. So there were definitely some swings. Let's just put it this way. There were some swings, and okay, we managed to get a nice start here with the fives. Yeah, I'm gonna continue my blog on Ben Up Bad Beats Discord. Probably just gonna update it like once a month for a graph, and yeah, talk a bit about my experience of how playing poker is. This board is really bad, so I'm just going to go and probably range check, or at least just check a lot. Now, we do have a gut shot, and we do have two overs to the board, so I do think we're gonna have to make the call here. And let's see what he decides to do. If he bets, I think I'm cooked. But depending on how big he bets. Yeah, versus this size, I think I'm just gonna have to call. I was thinking if he were to shove, but once I do have the king X here, I do just have to make the call. Wow, and he was bluffing. Okay, okay. That's actually really impressive. Like I kind of called thinking that I'm just he's just gonna have something, but well, I did imagine he's gonna have some bluffs, right? I mean, if I'm so surprised that he had a bluff, I shouldn't have even called, right? Because why am I calling if I don't think he has bluffs? But I think my hand was just a bit too strong there. But wow, okay, okay, bro. These guys are 50. The Russian cash, bro. They're pulling moves. They are pulling moves. Just gonna flat. I know I'm gonna get some shit for this, but the problem is that, especially in the early positions, I don't think these guys 3-bet enough. So when I 4-bet, I think I'm not getting enough money from them folding. And then when they do call my like 4-bet, or I mean, rather, when they shove, I just get blasted with the aces and kings a bit too often. Versus this, can I make the call? Versus half pot, we have two overs and the queen is clean. I think I'm gonna be putting in the call here. Been unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, if he bets a jack there, then for half pot, I do think we just have the odds to call. He also could have had king queen. I don't think it's impossible. Let's look at these guys' stats. So we see that these guys have a low VPIP and they don't 3-bet so much. So I think even a hand like 10-6 off is just going to be a good open. Especially, right, because we can clearly see that these guys are just not willing to fight for pots too much. So you can just open wider. Here when I'm out of position, I just like to play B25 with range or range check depending on the board. I know people like to range check out of position, but personally I am not quite a fan of it. As I think people, fish especially, just fold a bit too much for me to not see bet. King Jack is a 3-bet sometimes. When I'm making videos, I'm just gonna go ahead and try to always take the aggressive action when it comes to 3-betting. Over here, once he goes to 2 big blinds, I think I'm gonna have to raise here. And we do manage to get the fold. Well, I would have rather he call at that point, but you can kind of see that people just have clear sizing tells, right? So over here, if he had a good hand, would he have gone for b25 on the turn? On the flop, maybe, but on the turn, I think it's definitely a sizing tell. So I think it's really important. I mean, I'm not gonna do it right now because I'm playing Russian cash, but in general, if the pool is smaller or if you're playing reg tables, you should definitely be taking notes because a note I would be taking on that guy would be something like has sizing tells turn, and then I would know that next time when he bets small, he's probably just weak. So I could raise aggressively with my bluffs. I think it's really important to take notes. I think I'm just gonna have to get this one in with the ace king. And over here I'm gonna c-bet, as I did say I'm gonna range c-bet or range check. Normally I don't actually like calling this, I mean shoving, as even though guys might think I'm crazy. However, um, once this guy decides to 4-bet, I don't think I think he's super strong. But when we look at his stats and we see that he has like 13% 3-bet and stuff, I think it's a pretty good reason for us to get it in. Because people, when they 4-bet out of in position, they're super tight, super tight. At these stakes especially, think if you just get in with kings and above when they 4-bet in from position, think it's gonna be fine. You can dog me out in the comments, oh my god, you're such an idiot, whatever, whatever. I mean, if you guys think it's working, then do it, but from what I've seen, it's not. Do I bet here on the turn with the nines? I don't think so. I think it's better if I check back. Now on the river, I do think he would be betting a 10. At least he would be thinking a little bit about it. So I do think I can go for some 10 value here. He can call something like 4x, 5, 6s, just small pocket pairs, maybe even ace high. Like if he has ace jack, ace queen, I think they're gonna call this. This board with the king jack is gonna be a range check for me. And now when he just clicks here, I think I'm gonna make the call as if I don't think he's raising a 10, and if he had a king, I think he would either bet it himself on the river or he would be going bigger right now. This seems kind of small, so I'm gonna make the call. But he does have a king this time, so good for him, I guess. But I think his size on the river is a little bit small over here. When he raises, I think he should be raising much bigger. Yeah, and on him you can take a note that says something like can trap trips reversing respawn. Boom. And now we know next time he does that. I think his play is okay, but he should just have gone bigger there on the river. Right, because at that point you're like polar. You're not going to be raising a 10, you're either going to be raising like a set or trips or just pure air. So there's no reason to go so small. We get the fault here with ace king, which is a bit sad. I would have liked the call, because I do have it, but what to do? Let me look at this guy. This guy has low VP, but he has an okay-ish 3-bet, but we don't get the chance to even open. With the ace queen on the turn, and we're just going to check back. I think there's no reason for us to be betting. On the river, do we need to make the bluff catch with this hand? I'm not sure. Well, now we don't even need to. Very interesting. Okay, well. And queen 2. No, let me do it. Um, yeah, I think it's like I said, it's important to take notes, and I think it's pretty important to note when someone calls a hand like that. I would think that most people actually fold too much. So when someone does the opposite of my assumptions, it's definitely a good idea to take a note. Because c betting range versus someone like him is not so amazing if he calls so much. So I would either need to stop, like adjust my c betting on the flop, or I would need to barrel a lot more turns, right? Because if he has a queen two there, like he's gonna call the flop, but he's not gonna be able to call barrel on the turn, even if he loves calling. There's only so much he can call with the queen high. Drink some water. You gotta stay hydrated. I'm just going to range b25 on queen high boards. I was thinking that maybe it's better to go b40 when the board is paired, but I still think b25 is fine. Now on the ace here, I don't think we can go three streets with our hand. I also don't have a club, so I'm just gonna check back. Queen 3, king 3, and don't think it's good enough. King 6, I think it would have been a little bit better. Now if he checks here, I think it's gonna be really interesting. Well, versus this size, I'm actually just going to fold. So he can go for with a queen for this size, he can go with a flush for this size, and what would be his bluffs? His bluffs would be something like jack 10, 10 9. Now would his bluffs go for this size when I can have an ace here? And some people even check queen x here when the flush comes in. So I don't think this guy is bluffing here, or at least he's not bluffing enough. Right, I think this is another interesting take. When you think about bluff catching, first of all, what I like to do is usually I need to say what kind of bluffs he would have. So if I can see the bluffs, even though let's say I get a feeling he's bluffing, I just refuse to call, because there's been a lot of spots where it feels like he's bluffing because he only has, like, let's say two value combos possible. Um, but then if I don't see the bluffs, then why am I even calling? Like, he just has no bluffs. And another interesting thing is that when you think about the bluff catching, it's not good enough. Like, oh, he has one bluff, right? Because in that spot, let's say he has like 10 clear value combos, and then he only has one bluff combo. Does that mean that, oh, I should start calling because I know he's bluffing in that spot? Especially when he goes over bet clear, that's just not the case. So not only does he need to find a bluff, he needs to find like multiple, and I don't think that's the case in that spot. Right, because before, a problem that I had, like, oh my god, I'm so scared, like, what if he's bluffing me? But then in my head, I wasn't thinking about like how much he's supposed to be bluffing for me to actually have to call. So I think that's really good to start doing, and also definitely the think about what the bluffs would be. Unless you're against some random fish, which is just super spazzing, in which case you're not gonna be able to know that he like is spazzing with 7-2 off, let's say. Um, I really do think that you should be thinking about it. Here I'm going to check, and with the ace queen I'm gonna go for a b25. This board is actually going to be a range check for me, because these guys I think call a bit too much, like 6-7 offsuit. And now I think I can go for an overbet here on the turn. As when I'm betting, I'm only going to be betting a king or better. I mean, probably a bit exploitative. I should be going 75 normally, but I'm sure the overbet is fine. Over here versus the raise with nothing going on, we're just gonna have to make the fold here. Yeah, so when you're against the fish, I think you should just be sizing your hand, and over there I kind of wanted him to fold, so I just decided to go for the bigger size. If you're versus some regs, which you play with every day non-stop, I think you should definitely just be picking one sizing, just only using that one. Right, because if I'm playing versus like a competent reg and then sometimes I go B75 and sometimes I go over bet, he should be able to notice pretty quickly. Now, is that the case with these guys at 50? I don't know. But if you play higher or even if you play lower, if you play live games, for example, and you just play versus the same guys, I think they will start to notice at some point if they're professionals. But I still think you should be trying to take it as far as you can. So, while this might not be what most people would be doing, I think that you should actually just treat everyone as a fish at first, and then if you see that they notice, then you start adjusting. Because I think people give a bit too much credit to their opponents, especially at low stakes. No, I don't play like 1K, 2K, so I can talk about that. But for 50 at least, there's been the case that even regs don't notice the changes. And especially if you play something like live, I think they care even less. So I definitely think that you should be treating everyone as a fish, and then if they make some, let's say, specific calls versus you, because you think they notice, then you start using one size. Because if they don't notice, you're just gonna gain like huge amounts of EV if you're able to use just different sizes for your hand. Over here we're going to be squeezing, ISOing I guess, with the king 8. And once I ISO, what I like to do is I go B40 or range check depending on the board, and I think this is okay enough for me to bet. If the 4 was a 5, I would have been range checking. Once he doesn't raise here, I think I'm actually pretty good. So I'm going to continue betting the turn and look to check back on the river, as there's going to be quite a few bad rivers. But he does end up making the fold. 6-5, I'm going to open. 7-5 is actually not that amazing. And I'm just gonna sit out here as we're close to 20 minutes. Versus this, do I need to raise here? Once he donks, I do think I'm gonna go ahead and raise, as if he's just yapping with, let's say, king 10, right? And I just call here on the flop, he can barrel me off my hand on the turn or on the river. But now at least I know I'm not getting bluffed by him. So now I'm just going to check back and hopefully hit. But sadly we do not. And once he goes for this, we just have an easy fold. We can never be raise bluffing here, as he basically has no big blinds behind. And yeah, this is gonna be it for this video. Make sure to check out my Twitch, as I do stream there as well. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.